So let me apologize in advance. I'm going to ruin your perfect day. Well, I'm going to burst the business as usual bubble that we're in, because I want to give you a bit of a reality check what situation we are actually in. So I'm focusing on economic system change, and that's for a reason. So bear with me, take a deep breath. It will hurt, but I will end my talk, hopefully, and otherwise you have an extra excuse to go and binge yourself tonight. Okay, the situation on this planet. I want to focus on three things: climate change, biodiversity loss, and pollution. And well, basically the story of all three is the same. We're in deep shit. So I don't know if you are familiar with how the developments in climate change are taking shape, but as you know, in Paris in 2015, we created policy that was supposed to keep the warming of the planet underneath 2 degrees, 1.5 degrees to be precise, and we did it for a reason. We did that to avoid climate tipping points. And as you've probably read in the newspaper or seen on the TV, we've in 2024 we have already reached that 1.5 degrees. It's not particularly sure if the 1.5 degrees is already reached, because we need a couple of years to draw that conclusion from a scientific perspective. But fact of the matter is, we're not doing well. And I'm in contact with climate scientists for my work. And I actually not meet anyone anymore who truly believes we can keep the warming of the planet underneath 2.5, 3 degrees, 3.5 degrees in 2050. And please remember this, because it's becoming economic. And same goes for biodiversity loss. We are in what is called the 6th extinction wave, and what we see is dramatic decrease in living species, especially insects, which are crucially important as well for the economy, again, and I will get back to that later on. And as you can see on the upper left, I don't know, are you familiar with the Planetary Boundaries project by the Stockholm Resilience Center? And as you can see, they started in 2009 measuring the ecological processes that are crucial for our existence on this planet. And in 2024, you can see the headline underneath: Earth beyond 6 of the 9 planetary boundaries. Climate is just one, biodiversity is another one, fresh water is another one. And actually, the headline is old news, because since a month we have already breached 7 of the 9 planetary boundaries. And there's actually only one that's in the safe zone, which is ozone. Because the other one, the 8th, we don't particularly know how to measure it from an academic perspective. And what it means, quite factual, is that out of 7 out of 9 instances, we are actively helping our extinction. So this is where we are. But now it comes really painful. Because before I worked as a program manager at our business university, I used to be a professor of applied science in business and in economics, and I studied the impact of this development on the economy to help us to create economic system change. And I will share some thoughts on this. But we have no idea, really, we have no idea how hard this is going to impact our economy. It really blew me away in a very negative way. It really scared me, basically scared the shit out of me. So let me take you through 3 different forms of impact that are heading for our economy. So let me start on the lower left, the Nature magazine, and as you've heard from Dr. Dance, if it's in Nature, it's true. This is rock solid empirical research by 3 macroeconomics, and they have calculated that in 2050, when the warming of the planet remains underneath 2.5 degrees, and again, this is from a climate science perspective, really, really, really optimistic. The global economy, income, so not GDP, but income, will decrease 19%, 38,000 billion US dollar per year. 19% of global GDI structurally. And just to put it in perspective, that is 2.5 times the COVID crisis. The only difference between this crisis and COVID is this will take at least 50 years to stabilize. So we are moving quite rapidly, 2050, toward a 19% drop in global income. And as you, well, I don't know if you know, but the problem is there is 4 times more debt than money in the economy. The financial economy is way, way bigger than the real economy. And that's the real trouble with this, because there is no bank in the city, no bank in the Netherlands, no bank in the US that is capable to deal with the kind of collapse we are facing. You know, they have do stress tests and they can handle a temporary loss in global or in GDP, but not a 50, 60 time period. And this is exactly what we're heading for. And this is only climate. This is climate change, because there's also biodiversity. And you can see the headline, nature degeneration could cause a 12% loss to UK GDP. This is Oxford University research. And they've calculated in the upcoming 10 years, so not 2050, not 2075, far away, next 10 years, GDP in England could lose 12% only of the loss of ecosystem services, which is a tremendous loss again. So whilst we think that business is business and business will continue business, this is actually a quite dramatic impact on our businesses. And then you might think that we, as we sit here, we all work for companies. You know, we know this stuff. And because we know this stuff, it's all, you know, it's academic, it's open source, you can find it everywhere. You know, we take sustainability really serious, because if there is one thing that we don't want, is this. Because this will very, very much hurt our companies. So we'll do everything in our power to make sure that this doesn't happen. Well, not really. Because again, if you look at the facts, we can see that there is a tremendous gap between what companies say and what companies do if we talk about sustainability. I didn't put it in because it's Dutch research. It's based upon Dutch companies in the Dutch economy, but brand new research done by my colleagues of the Erasmus University last month. And they calculated in 2024, with everything that's happening on this planet and everything we know about sustainability, more than 2/3 of all the income generated by companies in the Netherlands is still at the expense of people and planet. 2024, Dutch economy, income created by companies, more than 2/3 is still degenerative for both people and planet. And we can see this again on a wide scale globally and internationally. So I think that is quite serious, to put it mildly. And this is also the reason why we more and more see people demand system change. And this is where my research focused on the last couple of years. So I researched economic system change, and I work now in a new role, program manager agency, because what we now try to do is to basically flip the business university, the business skill, to make students, well, basically to turn students into change makers. Because it's not enough anymore to just know your way in business. As in business, you also have to know how to make your way in society, because this is what's happening in society. Whether you like it or not, it will impact business. Business more and more will be held accountable for their role in society. So I studied this, And I shortly want to share a couple of conclusions on that research. So what we started out is we worked with this model, and you probably all know the iceberg model by Hall, which makes a distinction between circumstances, patterns, structures, and mental models. So you go deeper and deeper. I like to work with this wonderful model by Charles Eisenstein. It's very simple. It basically says symptoms rest on top of systems, and systems rest on top of stories. So what we see on a daily basis, climate change, biodiversity loss, they're all symptoms, and not one of those symptoms hasn't been caused by the economic system. Climate change is an economic issue. Biodiversity loss is an economic issue. Welfare inequality is an economic issue. The epidemic in depression and burnout is an economic issue. But what we can learn from this model, and this is quite foundational, is that each and every system, our economic system, is based upon stories. So it all starts with stories. What do we believe to be true? And what do we act upon? And now the problem is, if we look upon system change, most of the policies are working toward from symptoms to systems to stories. So climate change is a problem, and how do we deal with it? Well, we try to tackle global warming by electrify our energy resources, and then hopefully people change, and then maybe they change their story underneath. And of course they don't. And then what you see in all instances is that the process gets stuck somewhere in the middle. And this is also, I think, really true for companies. I work with companies a lot. And what I see now is we are in this very definitive moment now where sustainability is not easy anymore. It's not about you capturing the low-hanging fruit. It's not about incremental change anymore. It's really serious now, and it stuck. It's a reason why a lot of companies withdraw from the 2050 pledges they made earlier, and it all has to do with the fact that it's costing money now. It's not an efficiency thing anymore, sustainability. It's about changing the value system, and I will get to that a bit later. So what we did, and again, for time reasons, I have to be a bit short and sweet, but just to take you through the basics, we started out for 4 or 5 years with our students to change stories. So we didn't start with, how can we learn them 25 new business models based upon sustainability, or how can we create integral value calculations? No, we started with basic stories about worldview and the way people look towards themselves and other people, belief systems. And we started with 2. There are more stories, but these are the 2 most important. And the first one is the most dominant story in Western modern societies, which is the story of the individual. And we have our Enlightenment thinkers, Hume and Locke, to think for this. This is the most successful narrative in the Western world. And it doesn't take rocket science to find acknowledgement in that story. You just look around, you are all 100% unique individuals, and hooray for that. It's a wonderful thing that we live in a society that celebrates our individualism. There's nothing wrong with this. But if you talk to ecologists, and I talked a lot with ecologists as well, their worldview is completely different. They don't see individuals, they see what they call interviduals. Because what they think, and they have hard scientific proof also to back that up, is that all life on this planet is relational. There is not one single living thing on this planet that exists by itself, not one. Everything on this planet is interdependent. It's an ecological fact of life. And again, if you take that as your starting point, you get a way, way different system than the system that is in place now, because individualism is the basis of capitalism or liberalism, and that became the basis of neoliberalism, and that became the basis of consumerism and materialism. It all makes sense from the story of the individual. But if we change the narrative underneath, then the whole system changed. And another one, really important as well, is Maslow. You all know Maslow, the Maslow pyramid? Then you also know that he never created a Maslow pyramid. It was actually a sort of a wave that he created, but what he did was acknowledging the fact that there is a difference between material needs, emotional needs, social needs, and spiritual needs. And the reason I'm using the pyramid is that it is because it is in each and every economics book my students get. It doesn't matter if they're in middle school, high school, university of applied science, practical, it's in every book of them. And the reason is that there is a perfect fit between Maslow's look upon humans and economics. Because for Maslow, the human is a need-driven being. We have needs, and we want to fulfill those needs. And the fit with economics is perfect, because economics is the science of needs. How do you deal with needs? And how do you make decisions based upon the fact that there is scarcity? We have to make decisions. So there is there's a reason why Maslow is in all the economics book. It's based upon his look upon humans. But there was a completely different view on humans possible, and it's created by our friends in the Netherlands University of Humanistics. It's a real university, but they have a way different focus, and they focus not on the humans as a needs-driven species, but on humans as value-driven beings. So they didn't start with the question, what do we need, but what do we value? And what happens if you ask that question, the pyramid goes upside down. And you can find acknowledgement in that as well. I mean, I don't know if any of you has ever been to a funeral in your life, but a funeral, you could say, is a celebration of the value of people. If this would be a funeral and I would start by sharing my love of the deceased one by bragging about his impressive car park and the second room on Bali, you would go like, fuck you, don't do that. No, at a funeral, it's about the love. It's about the immaterial stuff that we value in each other and in people. It's actually the social part and the spiritual part. Yeah. So the interesting thing is we have that story in ourselves as well, but it's not celebrated. So if we change that story, then we can also change the system. So the current system is GDP focused. It's GDP monoistic, actually. Yeah, so the whole planet is working, every government, all economies are based upon GDP, gross domestic product. And gross domestic product is the most stupendous measurement there is. It's the sum of economic activities. It basically means, and it's always a bit hurtful to share it with you, but it really means that you only exist as wallets. If there's something enters or leaves your wallet, it counts for GDP, and that is the way that you exist. So everything you do that doesn't involve a wallet is considered worthless, which of course is stupid. And we can replace that for an integral value that doesn't only measure material welfare, but also well-being and wellness, and what I've labeled well-living, which is the value of a good functioning natural ecosystem. And then last but not least, if we change the system, if we are able to capture value in more than only monetary terms, we can also change business. And I would like to share two models with you that I'm really fond of. On the left side, you can see the model by John Fullerton. John Fullerton is a regenerative economist. And what you can see is there is a journey from conventional to regenerative. So conventional business, the conventional business paradigm is the business as usual paradigm. The Milton Friedman doctrine, the only business of business is business. As long as a business makes money, that's all it needs to do. We've been really, really good at this. The UK, the Netherlands, in Europe, we have created an astonishing rise in material wealth or in money and GDP. But as we know right now, it came with a price. It seriously degenerated the natural ecosystem that our economy is part of. So now we are learning and adapting. But what's crucial in this model is that you can see sustainability is not the end. It's not the end. It's in the middle. And you guys, you work for companies, so you know this, that the practice of sustainability is that you do your utmost best to remain doing what you were doing all the time, which is make money, but you do it with the utmost respect for people and planet. So you try to do less harm, but still stay in business for the sake of business, to make money. And what John Fullerton is offering us is a completely new way of looking at business, because he says, you know, what idiot decided that money in business are the same? There is so much value that companies can create that are non-material and non-monetary. And there where we know that companies can hurt people and planet in their effort to optimize profits, we can also change the paradigm and make sure that companies create, I don't know, biodiversity profit or social inclusion profit. You know, if you decide to do this, you can proceed it and you can make it. And you can measure it. I don't know if you're familiar with the term, but the term that is being used now it's called thrivability. Kate Raworth, you know Kate Raworth, donut economy professor from the UK. She is all about thriving. So it's not about sustainability, but thrivability. And then on the right-hand side, there's the work of my dear colleague Nancy Bokker from the University of Maastricht. And I really love this as well. She calls this the pathway to sustainability. And what you can see are different microeconomic, so based on business level of proceeding sustainability. And you can see the starting point is efficiency. And efficiency is the stuff that my students still learn in school. You know, what's the utmost best thing to do for a company? Well, it's, you know, keep the cost low, keep the margins up, and you're making profit, and be efficient. Yeah, you know, you can do this, but there are other models, and I'm sure that as you are here, you are all familiar with the business lingo, like net positive and net zero. But what I really love is what Nancy Bokker considered the end game. And she uses the term flourishing. And flourishing is interesting because it's actually a word that is derived from ecology, a flourishing ecosystem. But what I really love is what stands underneath. Put societal and environmental well-being before profit. And this is the moment where most of my students lose the plot. They go, what? But it's impossible. I mean, a company needs to proceed profit. It has to maximize profit. And well, this is then the moment that I introduce them to taxes and subsidies. Because this is actually what governments can create. They can create the playing field that we need. If we have policy that says that biodiversity profit, for instance, is as real as material profit, it is. And then we can have companies steer towards that and make money. Because at this moment, it is costly to do things that are really, really good for people and planet. It's bad for business. It creates higher costs, lower margins, and therefore it means it hurts the business. And I think this is one of the more structural mistakes in business. So I'm running out of time. But what I try to do with my students, I've created a new approach that I call Existential Economics. And basically, what we try to do, my job, program manager agency, is, well, I get paid to turn my students into activists. Yes. But to be bluntly honest, that sounds way more easy than it is in practice. Because a lot of my students, you know, the problems out there are so overwhelming, they're so big, they're so huge, that most of them stuck in coping mechanism. You know, they deny, or they downplay it, or some of them get really angry or depressed about stuff. And all of those are really normal reactions, but not really productive. So the only really positive reaction is to turn is basically stand up and be part of the solution, create change. And the strange thing now is, and I have no idea how that is in the UK, but in the Netherlands at the universities, we have policy now that states that all universities, all business universities, not only educate professionals. So before this, we educated managers, salespeople, entrepreneurs, accountancies, etc. But now we have to educate change makers. So it's in the policy. So not only a capable manager, no, it has to be a capable change manager. They have to become change agents. That's why my program is called Agency. It's about installing agency. And the way we do it is, let me skip this one, is what we start, and this is a question you can ask yourself as well. We always work with the individual, so I always start by asking my students, what do you want? Because agency can't happen without an intrinsic motivation. It all starts with intrinsic motivation. You know, if you have to do it, if it's obligatory, people don't do the change. So the starting point is always intention, always. So I don't tell my students to stand up for climate change or biodiversity loss. It's whatever they come up themselves. So it's really different. And then the other thing I ask them after they've decided what motivates themselves, what is the intrinsic drive, what does the world ask from you? Could you please dive into the data and see what was? And then you end up, and I want to leave you with this. This is our new way of, this is the, let's say, the theory of change that we are working upon. So I think that business education in future is in the middle, management, commerce, and finance. Every business university is the same in various forms and shape, but they all have management, commerce, and finance education. But what's different is I think it needs to be preceded by an issue. So each and every one of my students chooses an issue that he or she wants to work upon, and then it ends with impact. So business is not an end by itself, it's a means. It's a means to change an issue on this planet and turn it into positive impact. And this is something that I think we can all do. So if you can make the transition by not seeing your business as an end, but as a means to do some good on this planet, and if you have the capacity to go beyond the very simple materialistic thinking that a company is an X amount of money, then you can create a lot of value and be part of the solution. Thank you very much.